Hey everyone, welcome back to The Art of Safe Scumming. Today we're going to be talking about Lustria, and I've waited to do this video for some time because I was waiting to see what was going on with the Tomb King and Lizardmen AI, and it looks to me like the patch that came out this morning has at least addressed some of the problems with recruitment and the Tomb King and Lizardmen AI. You can see we got a little bit of recruitment here out of the pools, and it was up here with a full stack earlier, but he got PB slapped by Skulltaker, so that's a bad example. And then the Awakened are moving in here, so you can't really see that. But I did see him active. I also loaded up a previous save and then let it play a few turns through on a Tomb King campaign, and it looks like they are now active again as well. I've also seen reports, I think it was Coastin Gaming, he was talking about Beastmen and how they were working, so that's cool. And so it looks to me like the recent patch has at least addressed or improved some of that problem that was existing. So we can move on with Lustria. And when it comes to Lustria, this is my least favorite part of the entire map of Total War Warhammer 3. I hate coming here. I hate playing here. And it's because of how the map is designed and some of the elements that are integrated into it. Now, as someone who just came back from a hunting trip in the jungle, I think that it is very important that for the realism of the game, that it is difficult to move through an area like dense jungle in Lustria. But this feels especially bad compared to other places on the map. And the reason that it feels especially bad are, in my opinion, threefold. The first is that the way the roads are designed, usually when you're moving in any area, you can just kind of move in a straight line. But if you look here, if I wanted to come all the way over like here, like it even just did it there. If I wanted to come all the way over here, instead of going in a straight line, the AI tells me that it is easier to go all the way around there, quicker to do that than it is to go like this, which is absolutely ridiculous. That is a road design problem. And you can see what it is if we do that again. See how that looks very switchbacky? There's a lot of bends and breaks in that. Instead of it being like a straight line, you can see bump, bump, bumpy, 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 bumpy. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but that brings me into my second point when it comes to movement in Lustria. Lustria is made up almost entirely of jungles and mountains. Jungles and mountains share the same movement debuff factor of 2.4. So what that means is when you're moving through like a temperate area or a savanna or something like that, that is 1-to-1. So one movement tile, one movement point. There you go. It's a 1-to-1. Mountains, not that case. Jungle, not that case. It takes, to move any set distance, it takes 2.4 times as many points to get there. And that means that if you've got any wasted motion, any wasted movement like this bumpy part in the terrain here, instead of going from like there to there, well, you've got two other spots that you got to get to before there. And that depletes extra movement. So one of the things that would probably be difficult to handle when it comes to this whole thing is redesigning all these roads. That would probably take a while for Creative Assembly to go in and do and address all those roads. So I don't think that that is a feasible way to really do that, in my opinion. The second thing, or I've already done the second thing. Third thing that is very difficult about Lustria is the way the settlements are situated. And I think it's important that if you look at the way this map is designed, there is a giant river here that we can't really get around, right? We can't, it won't even let me path that way. Like, it's not possible for me to path around the city, for instance. I have to go through the city. If I don't own that city, I can't move through it. So, like, I can't get here, even though I had the movement to get there. It won't let me do it. Even though I have a defensive alliance with Alberic. So, I think this is especially egregious when we're talking about characters like Skull Taker, for instance, as someone who has a campaign mechanic that is designed around blowing shit up. Blowing up settlements, especially as Khorne, you blow the thing up and you got to wait 3 turns before it can be occupied. So you don't have the option of even occupying it next turn after blowing it up. You either have to occupy it, use the skulls, or blow it up and move around it, go a different way. And I feel like that is especially painful for somebody like Skull Taker, or a faction that's trying to move through an area that Skull Taker has been through. So what I would suggest is that they change the rules for moving through a settlement that has been destroyed. So make it so that if you can, or if you have a military access agreement, or if you have a defensive alliance or military alliance, then you can move through your friend's territory without having to own the settlement. If the settlement has been destroyed, then you can move through it as well. But if the settlement is not owned by you and it is a neutral faction, or if it is a hostile faction, then you can't move through it. So there's some tweaking there that could be done, because I feel like these settlements, for instance, Hualatl, is very important. It basically shuts down all movement this direction from this whole coast over here. You cannot get over here unless you go through this settlement. You to go this way, you either have to go all the way up and around this way, or you got to go all the way down and around. Oh my gosh. Really? Yeah, totally. Yeah, all the way down to where the dwarves live. This is a supremely important settlement because of that, the way that that's designed. I think that element is awesome. So how do we address this? It's a pain in the butt to redesign the whole map. It is probably less of a pain in the butt to change the rules for movement through territory, because we know that there's already some kind of switch that can be turned for, I can move through this settlement, but not this one. So they would probably have to rewrite some rules as to how you move through settlements and stuff like that. But we know that switch at least exists, versus redrawing the entire map seems like a pain in the butt. The other thing that could be done to drastically impact this is to play with the debuff. Now, again, as someone who just came back from the jungle, I think that it is very important that the elements of it being difficult to move through the jungle are maintained. Like, we did a lot of machete work to get through it, and it wasn't even particularly thick jungle. It was still a pain in the butt. But I think what you could do is, if we go in here and look at the ancillaries, we already have this mechanic in the game, and they just need to create another one. We have like Scribe's 8% campaign movement range and Messenger. Now, those can already go on these characters. So it can go on either a Lord or a hero. But when you put campaign movement range on this hero, it doesn't impact the campaign movement range of the army. It just does for the individual character. I am proposing that they come up with a series of new followers that are generated specifically from doing things in the jungle, like agent actions against enemies or settlements in the jungle, fighting battles in the jungle, etc. Call them like the machete team or something like that. And it is a follower that can be stacked on both lords and heroes that increases the campaign movement range of the army. And what that does is roll back some of that pain that is being experienced for the debuff of the campaign movement range. but you still have the elements of it being a slog to get there, but it's like you've trained your army up to be able to operate in that area by getting those followers and putting them on specific armies that you want to be able to power through the jungle. Right from the campaign start, you're not going to be able to do that. After you've got 4 or 5 armies rolling through the jungle and they've all been fighting battles and doing campaign actions and spending time in territories and stuff like that, well, then those things have gotten trained up and they can move around Lustria a little bit more easily. But at the beginning of the campaign, there's still that element of, all right, this is tough. And the reason this is tough is that my army isn't situated in a way or equipped in a way to be able to handle the terrain. But now that we've been here for a while, well, now we can. And you can selectively flex that onto different armies when you need it if you have a finite number of them. So call it, like, again, something like Machete Team for the Order factions, Machete Slaves for everybody else, like the Skaven and such. And there are other different tweaks that could be done for it. It doesn't need to be a huge amount of campaign movement range, probably on par of what we're already getting with the Scribe, but make it accessible to all of them so that we can pile it on your followers to enhance the campaign movement range of individual armies. For instance, I like to run around with Marcus Wolfhart with a subordinate army by me so I can ambush other armies. This army, in the early stages of the campaign, I might have enough to pile them on 3 characters, but I'm probably not going to have enough to do 2 armies, and they're probably just not going to be able to move at the same rate as the other. So you're still going to have those elements of a jungle slog that could be, again, addressed very easily with something that already exists. What I would like from you guys is feedback on how you're feeling about Lustria and whether these proposals that I have laid out in front of you seem like something that would be plausible and enhance the gameplay in a way that it would make you feel like you wanted to go engage with it again. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know, and hopefully we'll see you on another one here pretty soon.